right. Hello, hello, hello. Good evening to everyone who is watching us live right now. Welcome to the 18th General Membership Meeting of the Creator and Influencer Council of the Philippines, or the CICP, for the month of May. I'm Jako de Leon, strategist and producer of Paperbug TV and executive director of the CICP. And I'll be your host for this very fun and exciting GMM this afternoon. All right. Our session this evening will be centered on podcasts. And I'm really personally excited because I'm a huge fan of podcasts. I'm some kind of a podcaster myself. And we have also invited amazing guests who will be sharing their podcast journey with us and how they started, how their podcast journey is doing this very moment. We also have invited some very special people to share podcast secrets and tips with all of you guys, especially on how to start earning from your podcasts, or how to make a living out of it. All right. So without further ado, let's get to know our guests this afternoon. Hi, Jacob. For the first half of our fireside chat, we have Gino Quillamor and Chico Garcia, the personalities and voices behind the very fun podcast, Only Fun with Chico and Gino. And joining them later on for the second half is Phil Disini, the podcast partner manager at Spotify. All right, now that we know the guests for this GMM, let's jump right into it and get on with this very interesting discussion. Hey guys. All right, we have here Gino and Chico from Only Fun with Gino and Chico. My first question is, who gets that, like, kind of, why is it Chico and Gino? Why isn't it Only Fun with Gino and Chico?
I'll take that.
Oh no, I know where he's going with this.
There's this.
I know where he's going with
this. It's ever since I was born, I was always taught to respect my elders. So age before beauty. So I think that's why. No, I don't know. I guess it just rolls off the tongue easier. Like, because honestly, Chico's really not the type naman to also fight for I need to be top billing or whatever. Well, I mean, obviously, he's been in the industry for God knows how long. It's been a really long time. So obviously he's established his veterancy in the broadcasting world. So I just felt like it would be right as parang respect na lang na parang okay, bigyan na natin kay Chico yung top billing. So I'm super okay with being second fiddle.
No, actually, Jaco, simple lang yan. 2 words, star power. So, yung star power. So, alam mo na, syempre, kunyari, Angelina Jolie and a starlet. Syempre, mauna si Angelina
starlet
Jolie.
Lang talaga. You didn't even give me a name. You're gonna be Megan or something,
Unnamed starlet. Syempre, mauna si Angelina Jolie.
Seriously speaking, it's just because even with the morning rush, it was always Chico Del and Gino or Chico Gino. So it just, I don't know, it just felt easier, I guess. It was really a no-brainer. It's weird saying Gino and Chico. Just because.
Okay. I was rehearsing this earlier and I kept saying the opposite naman kanina. So no,
but that's just how it is, because my natural star power is actually coming out. His coming out, kind of coming to a close already. So medyo ganon. He's fading into the West. That's in the words of the Lord of the Rings. He's like Galadriel.
Parang pwede pa ba mag-back out? Kasi parang biased yung moderator.
No. Here's the thing you guys mentioned kanina. Obviously, you guys are a huge part of a lot of people's lives with the morning rush, right? But how did you get started with Only Fun as a podcast, when we all know naman you guys are on separate radio stations now, you guys are on separate shows, and then I know you guys did a little bit of YouTube, but how did this idea of doing Only Fun started?
Do we give the glamorous answer or the real answer?
Honestly, the juicier the better. No, just give whatever.
Chicks, you want to take this one, naman?
Sige. Basically, this Only Fun was really a pandemic baby. It was at the peak of the pandemic. As is the case with Gino and I, literally, it was just a message. Gino goes, "Chicks, gusto mo podcast?" And I'm like, okay.
Yun na yun. That's it. That's about as juicy
no
as
questions. I didn't even ask him what it would be about. I mean, to be honest, I think everybody went through this with the pandemic. Yung parang, alam mo yung
Ano na
Gino's
gagawin
probably
natin?
thinking, ano na, may mapakain pa ba ako sa mga anak ko? Ako naman, like, will I have money for Pokemon Go and to feed my cats, you know? And it's like, it kind of like made us think, you know? And for a time, we kind of like had to go off air. Sandali lang naman. Pero it really became like as an existential thing na parang, what's going to happen to us? Is there going to be radio in the future? You know, like we were looking at some zombie dystopian
That's true.
future, diba? So when Gino said, you know, why don't we do a podcast? I was like, you know what? I've always thought about it. Oh, nga, no. Why haven't we done a podcast? It was more like that. Tapos parang after we agreed that we would have one, it was just a matter of fleshing out. Oh, sige, about
what? Details.
What's a good title? What's a good ganyan? Pero deep inside, I really think the pinaka reason for this is that Gino just missed me and he needed an excuse to see me on a regular basis. So I was like, oh, sige, pagbigyan ko na.
That's one perspective. That's one perspective.
The Gino perspective.
The real perspective. I was thinking, you know, it was the peak of the pandemic. It was 2020. You know, I had a 2-month-old baby at that time. Radio kind of stopped. All events stopped. And I was just thinking to myself, oh my God, how am I going to feed my family? You know what I mean? Like, how am I going to pay for electricity and everything like that? And then I realized, I was like, sino bang kasing gigil sa pera katulad ko? Si Chico. No, but okay.
Sino yung maraming utang?
Sino yung maraming binabayaran na statue, maraming luho, gusto mag-travel? Si Chico. No, but I was thinking about it. We've always, even when we were still doing the show together, we were already, you know, we were kind of entertaining the idea of a podcast. It's just that one of our biggest problems is marami kaming idea, but we never really push through. Like that's always like, God, we had this idea of putting up an ad agency and whatever. We had like killer punchlines for clients and whatever. But obviously nothing ever came to fruition. And I think one of the things that the pandemic kind of made me realize is like, yo, if you're not gonna move forward, if you're not gonna work on anything, like nothing's gonna happen. It's not gonna manifest without you having to actually put in the work. And so, you know, the work was really as simple as getting him on board first. And then so that's essentially how it came to be. Like, and you know, I've worked with him before. I know that it's so easy to talk about pretty much anything with him. So, you know, he was really top of mind when it came to coming up with a podcast.
Speaking of coming up with, like, talking about anything under the sun with you guys, that's one thing that I love about the podcast. You never know what the topic is going to be about until you see the title. Like how, and I know the answer is like, hey, we could talk about anything, but syempre with a podcast, you have to kind of determine, right? Yeah. What are we going to talk about for this recording? How do you guys come up with that? Is that super random or is that something that, you know, rapport na lang talaga?
It started out as we would kind of plan it. Let's be honest, diba? Like parang, okay, like let's say we're talking about Stranger Things. Okay, so the whole idea behind Only Fun was always like, we'll use a current TV show or a movie or anything that's happening as like a launch pad into whatever it is that we're going to be talking about. So it started out with, chicks, ganito yung mangyayari. We'll watch Stranger Things and we'll talk about, you know, our best childhood adventures or whatever. It started out as that for maybe like 3 episodes. and then after that, like, wala. Like, because we're so used to just, you know, talking to each other and wherever the conversation will go, we'll kind of figure out what to do when we get there. So, yeah, like, it started out as that and then eventually transformed into this, like, hey, what's a nice thing to watch now? And then we'll find something to talk about the show, like, that doesn't necessarily relate to the show. You know what I'm trying to say? Yeah.
Yeah.
Kasi we've all know, like, even before this, kasi even before Gino left, parang we had a couple of other projects. Then, you know, on radio, obviously everything is off the cuff. And then, you know, we've also tried, alam mo yung medyo scripted kind of content creation. And then I guess it's something that we never really talked about, pero we kind of arrived at the same conclusion, which is, I think we're really at our best when we're just winging it. Don't script us. Kasi parang yun yung nangyayari. Like, I'm not saying that it's not good, pero like, kasi like when the conversation organically takes us to another step, or in another direction. Mas nakakatawa if it happens naturally as opposed to, Gino, we'll talk about this show, tapos segue tayo into a talk about relationships.
Yeah.
Instead of like planning it like that, parang we realize what we used to do on radio would actually work in a podcast. Na parang, alam mo, bahala na lang. Wherever it takes us. Most likely, if that's where it naturally goes, then it will sound more natural. Diba? And it will sound mas maganda yung flow.
Actually, to just highlight this further, and to give you a pretty solid example, there's one episode in our podcast where we had agreed to watch a specific show, you know, and usually, kasi what we do is we'll talk about it the week before, and about okay, these are the 2 shows that we'll watch for this week. I had watched the latter show, and that was my bad because you know I was just all over the place. And so we get to the recording, and we're like, okay, so we're talking about the show called Tomorrow, and I'm like, wait, aren't we talking about senior year? So like I had never watched the show that we were supposed to talk about, and that ended up to be like, you know, one of the podcasts one of the episodes that actually, you know, got a lot of like we got a lot of comments about it after because you know they found it hilarious that, you know, we started out with, you know, basically watching 2 different shows and but you know you still make it work, you just wing it, and yeah, like I guess that's kind of one of the things that we have going for us.
No, and it's a natural progression talaga from radio. And I keep telling like a lot of my friends who are radio DJs, siguro yun nga, peak of the pandemic, everybody was, lalo na people from radio nga, they weren't going to work. Obviously, radio stations were closed. Everybody wanted to do social media, right? Like in a certain way, and everybody's trying to find their footing. And I always saw when podcasts came about, I was like, the DJs should take advantage of this because this is their element, right? Parang Aquaman underwater to eh. I mean, you can't bring
I'm not sure if I'm allowed to say this. Feel free to edit it out after. But you were one of the people that, like, you know, kept on telling me na parang, yo, you guys should definitely have a podcast. You know what I mean?
No, actually, that's why I mentioned it. Para lang I can.
Okay.
I was expecting
yes,
that.
This podcast
No.
would not have come about without Jako, you know? So.
No. And yun nga, I felt talaga at that time na you know, you guys, this is where you guys should be. If you want to have footing and property in the online space, podcast is it. And since we're on that topic, then what are the differences and obstacles that you guys have had, maybe comparatively, right? Radio and podcasting. What are the key differences, and what are the, you know, the one, I don't know how to say it, but when is it that radio's better, and when is it that podcast is also pretty cool?
I like the whole real-timeness of radio. You know what I mean? I think there's also something to be said about content that you can't ever access again. You know, there's that whole that's radio nice. Prior to being, you know, translated into podcasts also. Like if you missed it, that's it.
That's it. Yeah.
You missed that moment. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's like, you remember what Achilles said to that girl in Troy, you know, the gods envy us because this is it, you know, this is that moment, like you'll never be here again. Radio has that, or had that at least, you know, like that whole, if you had like this hilarious moment, like you could never revisit it. So it kind of pressured people into listening every day, even if like, you know, sometimes you'll have like okay lang shows, and then sometimes you'll have like fantastic shows. I think that's one of the pluses of radio on my end.
Pero go.
Kasi like it's true. Yung one of the things that we kind of miss on the podcast is the immediate reaction. Like literally on radio, kasi as you're talking, you could see your Twitter blowing up already, and like you know, people agreeing with you, and that's part of the show. So if I say, oh, you know what, blue is better than pink, and then Gino will say, no, pink is better than blue. Automatically on Twitter, everyone will be like, no, I agree with Chico. No, I agree with Gino. So that's,
and you read it out
loud,
you know?
And it's immediately, it's like almost like a community. It's almost like, you know, seeing your content merge with the content of your listeners. But you know, the thing naman about podcasts is that, you know, this is like the first time that we've actually like have our own content. that we're not working for somebody else. It's like the difference of like working for a company and having your little own business, your little own parang, which is like very pandemic then, di ba yung mga pandemic, nagsimula yung mga
and guys,
little home
newsflash,
businesses.
It's so much fun pala to not have a boss. It's actually it's so
we're airing
enjoyable
live,
pala.
by the way. Your boss might be listening, but
no, I'm just saying,
bosses.
like, because I mean, no matter how great your boss, and I'm being serious here, no matter how great your boss might be, I'm sure at some point you'll come to like some misunderstanding or maybe like a difference in path you want to take. And the great thing about having your own podcast is it's on you. You know what I mean? Like if you gamble with something and then it pays off, then great. All the reward is yours. But if it fails miserably, then you can't really blame anyone else either. It's just you. So I think that's one of the things that I love about podcasting, at least.
Yeah, and I think what's great about podcasting in general is, other than the fact that it's yours. Well, actually, speaking of the fact that it's yours, it's also something that you can make more business out of, right? Yeah. Like it's something that you can monetize yourselves. Have you guys started, trying to get, or at least monetizing the podcast in any way, shape, or form?
Are you kidding? I'm paying for my Dasma house because of our podcast. I'm kidding. I wish.
I just bought a spaceship, from Elon Musk.
You're getting Starlink internet.
Yes, we have started to monetize already, and it's okay. I don't want people naman kasi to think na parang okay, just because you have a podcast, like that's you're set for life.
Of course.
Obviously, it's not like that. You know what I mean? Like it's a good source of income. Yeah. If you're asking me if it could be your main squeeze, I think you could. I honestly think you could. Are we at that position? Obviously not, because he's still in radio, I'm still in radio, we're still hosting on the side and whatever. Like it's still a combination of things. But definitely, like it is what I thought. I mean, in terms of like how lucrative it would be, it has already surpassed it in my head.
Wow. Yeah. And it's great, diba? Kasi the only reason I bring it up then is because having your own, like, pandemic, right? People were selling anything from, like, ube pandesal, ube cheese pandesal. And biglang they realize something, diba? I just wanted to jump off on what Gino's saying. It's not naman that you don't like your boss. It's that sometimes it's fun to be your own boss, doing something fun that you built yourself, right? And lalo na now, the technology has caught up, right? Like now we can do interviews like this with the quality of as if we have a studio, and whatnot. Did you guys face any challenges when you guys were starting out? Or was it more, wala lang, I mean, kind of flowed on its own?
I can answer that. Siguro the biggest struggle, obstacle, uphill climb is internet.
Sorry, can I be more specific? Internet ni Chico. Alam mo yung a full one. We're past like 100 episodes already, right? And like I swear, man.
Wait, no way. For
I
only
think we're past 100 episodes already, if I'm not mistaken, right? Like, because we had a 10 episode season 1 and then a season 2 that just never ended. So we're on that now. And since season 1, I was telling Chico already, because where he broadcasts from is not his main house, like
correct,
just like the rich kid he is. He has like an extra house where he goes to for recording and whatever. And so I tell him like, pakabit ka naman ng internet dyan. Ayun, 100 plus episodes na, wala pa rin internet na ginagamit.
Okay, pero here's the great thing. The great thing, Jako, I'm so glad that we could do this right here. Bukas i-install na yung internet.
Wow! Oh my God! Are you serious? Wait, you're not kidding.
No.
Oh, no. Wow!
Actually, it was supposed to be today. Kaya lang, I was afraid that baka masagasaan yung, our little program today. Yeah. So it would actually have been installed today, and I could actually be on my internet right now. But I am happy to announce the next episode of Only Fun will be via broadband internet. Thank
you. Oh my God. Finally, we can start to work properly.
I mean, so that's like really lalo na for hosts na, there's more of you guys talking or you're talking with guests, no? Like there's that kind of problem. But like how about on the like, on that, I'm kind of curious on that kind of monetization. And have you guys worked with any brands already? I mean, you don't have to mention it, but
Yeah.
have you guys worked with brands for the podcast?
Yes. Actually, we've already done several because we also got the help of a bunch of people to kind of help us with the marketing side, because I think that's always
Nice.
been our weak spot. Like,
Correct.
we're horrible at negotiating. When it comes to matters of money, we're just not the people you want to talk to. So yeah, basically what we've done is we kind of have like different packages for people who want to advertise on the show, like because I think one of the things that Chico and I talked about at the very beginning was that if anyone was ever going to come into the show and they wanted to put money, that, I mean, obviously that's great. Part of the reason why we do it is because of that, let's be honest.
Yeah.
But we did say that we didn't want it to completely change the show, in the sense where, I mean, obviously, at the end of the day, we've heard this so many times, content is king. You know what I mean? So
Correct.
we still want it to be as entertaining as it usually is. So we still had to have some control over where the advertisers would take it. So it would still be upon our approval na parang, okay, if, kunwari, sabihin natin si Chico merong brand na ipapasok ng ballpen. I mean, obviously, we can't be talking about a ballpen for like an hour, right? So
Correct.
we have to find a way to kind of weave that into the story that we're trying to tell in the podcast. So
yeah, and I guess that's the experience that you have then when you do AOBs for radio and all that.
That's
stuff,
true.
right?
Actually,
That's where
very
it
similar.
comes in really handy. Yeah.
Very, very similar. Pero yun nga, like Gino was saying, that's the only parang I guess tricky part. How do you make it fit? Kasi parang, like it's
yeah, that's the kind of problem that we were talking about.
Advertising, podcasting is like social media. Like, you have to balance. Hindi kasi parang, di ba sa social media, parang you're torn between, do I just post what I want?
Yeah.
Or do I post
a creative
what
spin
I
on
think
it
that people will want? Diba?
Yeah.
Is it all about marketing, or is it like, you know what? I like to post about earthworms, and who cares if nobody likes to see earthworms on their feed? Yung parang, it's that balance. So when somebody wants to sponsor the show, obviously we would want to accommodate them. But as a brand, syempre, they're spending their money on our show. They would also want a certain amount of exposure.
Yeah.
Na we have to find that middle ground. Kasi alam nga namang, di ba, ang hirap naman yung kami na kailangan maipasok natin itong brand na to. Oh. Okay, Gina boy, you know what? Wow, that was a long movie and I was sitting for like 3 hours just watching. And speaking of, what's a good medicine for hemorrhoids? Oh, did you know that I'm using this? Like, alam mo yung syempre kailangan ipilit mo, di ba, kung ano yung kung ano yung product, no matter how there seems to be a disconnect between your content and the brand. You have to make it work. You have to make it seem
that's
like
the part of being
the
creative,
natural.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Find your own way of, again, weaving it into your story, your narrative.
And the beauty about it is I've seen other podcasters, and I don't know if you guys do this then, but some of them have been very creative with it. They've been using also their teaser posts, or for the episode, minsan you could see the brand there, or even on the album art, minsan they'll put it there, right? So there are, yun yung I think what I liked about podcasting, lalo na when I saw you guys starting to really build on it. Like me, it was more theoretical, like we were just like, oh, I love podcasting. I was working for the platform at that time, but like now I'm seeing people utilize it, making
basically
content.
What you were thinking of back then.
Now I'm like, okay,
fruition.
now I could do it. Okay, from that, I want to jump in naman to a huge part of your podcast, which is the listeners, right? Like, could you describe the typical Only Fun listener, and what would they be like? Kasi you could see analytics na rin, diba? Or maybe these are old listeners pa. Like, what are they now compared to the ones before?
Well, apparently we found out that we're the premier BL podcast in Asia. I have no idea why.
I mean, it wasn't exactly
what we
the
had
goal.
in mind. Yeah.
Alam mo yung you wanted to take off from a certain point, but you landed in another planet. Medyo ganun yung
But
nangyari.
you're
Kasi
like, hey, it's not so bad here. You know?
Yeah, this is good.
Wait, so how did that whole thing kind of come? How did you guys find out, first of all?
Well, when we came out on, like, when going through
Clear it up
Spotify,
when we say
we were like,
when we came out. Clear it up.
no.
I mean, it is Pride Month, guys. So it is.
One
it's
day,
okay.
we were scrolling, going through. Tapos bilang yun, di ba sometimes yung sa, what do you call that? Sa
May
Spotify
suggestions
yung
sa
lalabas
feeds
yung
mo. Sa feeds mo.
DJs who are now on radio, ganyan. Oh, okay, we're there. Ganyan. Or whatever. Tapos one day, yung parang collection of it's like BL podcasts. Tapos parang kami ata yung unang nangunguna dun.
Oh,
we were like the
that's
first.
awesome though. Yeah.
We were the first like podcast on the list. And I was like, oh, we're a BL podcast.
I guess we are that now.
I guess we are that now. Hindi kasi like, I think where that is coming from is that people who listen to us, of course, I think a good chunk of that would be the people who used to listen to us, who are still listening to us, who listened to us when we were working together, who are listening to us now that we're in separate shows.
Yeah.
So because they know us, right? But I think another sector of our listeners are those who are entertainment consumers like us, like-minded people. Yeah. So because our shows basically jump from shows, oh my gosh, they are so active when it comes to like, kunyari, we talk about one K-drama, automatically after each K-drama episode, we will get a lot of tweets recommending a similar one. Ay, gusto mo ba yung si ganyan? Ay, nandito lang siya sa K-drama na to and this one. So it's like, like just, I think earlier on the radio show, we were talking about this. Minsan you're looking for people to talk to. Because sometimes, like, you belong to a family, you're the only one who watches K-drama. Everyone rolls their eyes whenever you bring up K-drama because they don't like that. They like something else. So when they encounter a podcast like ours, where we talk about shows endlessly, doesn't matter whether it's K-drama, whether it's a movie, action, drama, BL, lahat yan eh. We kind of like ask for suggestions and we watch whatever. It gives them that quote-unquote kausap about their favorite shows. Yeah. Even if, let's say, medyo one way, because it's just us telling them how we feel about the show, they can still comment on our Instagram page. They can tweet us. It's that. I really think it's that whole may nahahanap ka na kachika about your favorite show.
Yeah. And honestly, you guys nailed that description of what a Spotify or a podcast listener is. It's that kasama eh. They're eavesdropping into a conversation, and because of social media, they can easily communicate na now. But there's that synergy with that. And siguro before, because later we're gonna have Phil and like other creators and Phils from Spotify to join us naman about in a short kind of segment. Siguro before we get there lang, what would be what would be something you want to do pa in the future for OnlyFun? Like, what is something that, maybe you got it from your fans or whatever, listeners. What is something you still want to do that you haven't done yet in a podcast?
Oh, that's easy. I know, like, have Chris Pratt on the show.
Wow.
On the podcast.
Okay.
But you guys didn't you guys interview na Hollywood celeb on the podcast?
Yeah, we had Elizabeth Olsen recently, Benedict Cumberbatch for Doctor Strange, and then before that we had Kit Harington for Eternals, Gemma Chan.
So it's next, diba? Like Chris Pratt is the next in line. It opens that avenue.
We missed the window for Love and Thunder. Like they had like
may Guardians 3 pa.
Ayun, yun ang asahan namin, yung Guardians 3.
Yeah, pero, and that's the good thing about having your own business, having your own podcast now. Now you can cold call Disney and go like, guys,
exactly.
Let us know.
Which is also something we talked about before. Like this is one of the reasons why we pursue the things we're passionate about, is because, why do we talk about, movies? Because we want to be able to interview the celebrities who are part of
Exactly.
Why do I want to talk about video games? Because eventually I want to get invited to like E3 and whatever, and be there, or Comic-Con or whatever. Like, I mean, it's a way of pursuing your passions, but at the same time, trying to make a bit of good money while doing it. You know what I mean? So it's also not, it's also productive while it is entertaining.
And siguro another like parang possible avenue for us is like, I mean, Jako, look at the people you're talking to, diba? We want to try some sexier content, total only fun na yung pangalan namin, and
might as
well. If you want to see more, move on to the other site.
Yeah. No, and it's great, diba? And before we continue, our discussion just getting juicier, let's squeeze more podcast knowledge in just a minute with Phil Disini, who's joining us, who is the podcast partner manager at Spotify. So stay tuned.
Social media marketing has been increasingly getting bigger within the content marketing and advertising industries. It's set to keep growing as many companies build up their brand and retail presence online. This is why we established the Creator and Influencer Council of the Philippines. It's made up of all the stakeholders that contribute actively to this industry, from content creators to influencers to brands and agencies, and we invite everyone within these segments to join us. Together, we aim to inspire, educate, and guide everyone involved to create a thriving and established network of professionals, with the goal to foster the prosperity of our members and provide industry leadership, to build an ecosystem with integrity, collaboration, and respect at its core.
Together, we are the CICP.
All right, and we're back now with Phil Disini, podcast partner manager at Spotify. Phil, welcome to the program, right? Welcome to our chat.
Hey, thanks, Jako. Thanks for the invite. Super excited to be here.
Yeah, no, I mean, kanina we've been talking with Chico and Gino, obviously Spotify exclusives, if I may add.
Notice how quiet Chico and I are, because we don't want to screw that up. They
were talking about it. Kanina they were saying kanina, oh no, what would Phil say about us? So you know what? Having said that, as a podcast partner manager in Spotify, how is Only Fun to you? Like no biases. Yeah, like as a.
Do we
what
have
do you
to
think
be here for
show?
this? Like, this is weird.
No, I think we love Only Fun. I personally listened to Chico and Gino even when I wasn't at Spotify in their old radio days. I love the content, right? Like, and I think what I like about it is just so natural, right? Like, if you don't know Chico and Gino personally, I feel like their podcast gives a good idea of who they are as real people, everyday guys. And I think it's a good example of what makes a good podcast. It's just authentic conversations happening between friends, talking about real stuff, sharing their real opinions, right? So yeah, I love it.
And I was telling,
I'm so afraid.
I was telling them kanina nga. I was telling them like, look, like I think you're a good beacon for what a good podcast should be, and I guess that's confirmed by Phil, diba?
I guess we use the term "good" very lightly now.
On Spotify. no, but
yung vibe yung parang like Jako is our dad, and then he's talking to our teacher. So how are my kids doing?
Parang may hiya ng konti. Talk about it.
Have they been causing any trouble as of late?
Yeah.
Okay, so one thing is like in that analogy, I think podcast is, you learn to do podcasting. You're not good at it from episode 1.
Yeah.
Like when you learn math, right? You don't know how to do algebra on your first day. You got to start with like 1 + 1.
Yeah, I mean, I'm 37. I still don't know how to do algebra. Exactly. You know what I mean? Yeah.
I'm glad
that even
you're good at talking and you're good at podcasting, right?
No, and I know I was telling them nga parang it was a great transition for radio DJs, right? Like I kept telling them ever since, like, hey, look, if you want to be on social media, you want to be in the digital world, you want to own your digital footprint, etc. This is where you should be, like radio DJs. But why should people, like, let's say they don't have the radio experience, right? Why should they start a podcast?
Well, that's a good question, and I think the reason why people start is really up to them. Like there's so many reasons. I think for radio DJs, it was a natural transition, especially during the pandemic, to kind of bring their skills onto a new platform. A lot of people are camera shy as well. Like if they don't like that video experience, a podcast is another way for them to connect with people through the pure sense of audio. A lot of people want to just to officially, like, sometimes to just to share their own personal thoughts on things. Again, there's so many reasons. My favorite reason though is for podcasts. There was this one creator that said he just wanted to make a difference, so he made like a motivational podcast. He felt like he had a lot to share. He had a lot of friends who had like mental health issues, and he felt like he was sharing the same thing all the time. So he started a podcast to make a difference, and I love that reason. And I hope a lot of people who are listening to this talk kind of consider podcasting, not just because you're going to be popular. It's actually you can think about like the impact that you have at the end of the day.
And off cam, we were talking about how until now we're using mobile internet for Chico. We're talking about it off.
Some
offline.
of us are.
Yeah,
Today is the last day we're doing this.
Last day they're attaching high speed na.
Siya.
Literally gonna keep the lights on. But I think the good thing about podcasting is that a lot of people think, I need a professional mic, or I think you need good audio. You don't need video's not a priority. But I would you say that that's one of the things that's good on starting? Because if you want to be a content creator and you want to do something, it's probably one of the most cost effective. Would you say?
I'd agree,
mediums? Yeah.
I'd agree. Like essentially what you just need is a basic micro. Well, actually, you don't even need a microphone. Like you have your cell phone that can act as your microphone already. Yeah. Quick plug here. Like if you're thinking of making a podcast, you guys should check out Anchor.fm, which is what Chico and Gino use.
I was just about to get into that, like, because I was just saying because honestly, like you were talking about how for radio DJs is kind of like a natural transition to get into podcasting, but like what you said also, like it's a skill that's learned, and there's definitely a lot of back end stuff that goes into making a podcast. And I was just about to say that Anchor just makes it so much easier to get into podcasting. So there you go.
Thanks for the plug. And that segment was brought to you by Anchor.
Anchor FM. No, and literally you can use your phone, diba, Phil? Tama, diba? Like, so with Anchor, the program is on the phone. You can edit. You can. I love that this turned into an Anchor thing.
Okay, I'll take a step back. So aside from Anchor, so check it out. But I think a lot of people have this misconception that you have to buy the most expensive microphone. That's not true. You can. I mean, a lot of us have been working from home, studying from home, so I'm sure everyone has some sort of microphone. Use whatever you have. I think the more important thing that you need to bring into your podcast is the concept. But it also has to be a concept that you feel like you can talk about for like 100 episodes. I'm sure, again, Chico and Gino, I feel like you guys can talk for like 100 episodes, right? Like the concept that you have is just so natural to you. So yeah, I would suggest, like, instead of thinking of the technical side, like worrying about the technical side, I think about your concept, think about what you're passionate about. And then once you have that concept, again, use Anchor. Anchor will guide you through the step-by-step process. And yeah, you'll notice that everything's free the whole way through, right? I wouldn't suggest buying anything, especially in the early days of your podcast.
Yeah.
Discover if it's something for you, and then you start to invest in like maybe buying a new microphone and things like that.
Yeah, and you get better with it. Speaking of, like, since you were talking about building it as your own business, as a creator and all that, we talked about some opportunities to monetize. What are other opportunities, or what would you say are like ways to monetize a podcast for those who want to start out and want to look at it as maybe not necessarily a lucrative thing, but something that they can keep the lights on, at least keep doing what they love?
Good question. So I've seen a couple of examples of how other podcasters have done it. I think a lot of the monetization still happens through direct advertising through shows. So it's literally reaching out to brand managers, to agencies to pitch your show, packaging your show in like, hey, I have package
number of episodes.
I'll put your ad in like 10 of my episodes, or putting your brand inside my podcast and things like that.
Correct.
So it's a bit more on that space still. I'd say about 90% of the monetization still happens through that route.
Yeah.
I've seen some podcasters monetize through merchandise. So the beauty about podcasting is you do build a super loyal following if you engage them. So I think a good example is like Wake Up with Jim and Sab. Like they have a full line of merch that's part of their Wake Up with Jim and Sab podcast. I'm waiting for the Only Fun T-shirt.
We have a package that we're currently working with St. Peter's Funeral Home.
Only Fune. Only Fune.
Only Fune. Heral.
Heral.
It's just taking a little bit of time to flesh out the details, but we'll get there.
Ano pa? Don't forget the Only Fun de Manila.
Ayun, Only Fun de Manila. Big fresh from your door.
Big fresh.
I hope these brands are paying you guys. This is good exposure for them. But I think I want to take also this time, maybe we can share a bit about like the Spotify original and exclusive programs. So Chico and Gino are part of our Spotify exclusive program. So the program itself is...
To clarify, we still are, right?
Not anymore. After this talk, no. So Spotify exclusive program think of it like an accelerator for Spotify. If you have one of the top podcasts in the Philippines, there is a chance that Spotify will approach you and offer you to be part of this program. It comes with a licensing fee to hopefully keep your lights open so that you can record your podcast without the worry of ads.
To pay for internet, essentially, stuff
well,
like that.
Right? The fee, right? And at the same time, we treat the shows as if you're a full-fledged Spotify show. So we do our best to promote your show within the Spotify app and even outside the Spotify app, because being a Spotify exclusive means that you have amazing content that Spotify wants to tell the whole world, right? One of our podcasters in Indonesia is actually, I think, in the top 50 now around the world, and she's a Spotify exclusive, right? And we do our best to promote her. So
no.
Only Fun becomes one of those shows in the future, guys. Medyo malayo pa tayo.
Medyo malayo pa.
But again,
kailangan
process,
trabahuin.
Right? And then the Spotify original program, again, that's something for much larger creators. If you're a proven podcaster and you have the audience, we can do like an original contract with you as well. But I think for people in the show, in this talk, like if you're starting a podcast from scratch and you're growing it, I think the Spotify exclusive program is something that's really reachable. I think we now have 25 shows.
Nice.
And it continues to grow.
And it's the community. I think at the end of the day, one thing I love about Spotify is that we're starting to build that culture, that community. You're starting to see people creating because they want to create, diba? And they have something to say, something to fix, right? A lot of stuff. What is the future for Spotify Philippines? Like, what do you see happening in the maybe as a last question then, what is the future for podcasting in the Philippines, or what do you want to see as the future?
I think it's super exciting. We're seeing more and more creators come into the podcasting space to try it out, and it's all over the place, right? It's like big celebrities and creators who have like 1,000 followers, right? And you'd be surprised, right? Like those creators with 1,000 loyal followers end up actually becoming like a Spotify exclusive. Like there's a couple of shows that in our roster that started from a very small base, but again, invested and grew their shows. So we're seeing like an influx of more creators. I think the future for Spotify is going to be like, it's just going to be scale, right? Like I think we are where a lot of the platforms that are present now in the Philippines, we're in the very early stages, but again, the wave is starting to rise. So if you are thinking about doing a podcast, now is a good time. I think Chico and Gino started at the perfect time, but it is becoming a bit more competitive. So kind of the longer that you wait, it is going to be harder for you to carve out your own audience. So while the wave is still kind of starting, I think now's a good time to start, carve your audience, because on average, also people don't listen to a lot of podcasts. Like they listen to like a handful of shows. Yeah, it'll be good that early on you are one of, let's say, the 5 shows that this person listens to. So I think it's pretty exciting. Try it out. We're super supportive of anyone who's starting a podcast. I think for Spotify, we'll be doing more like webinars, master classes that's open to everyone. It's going to happen in the next couple of months. Chico and Gino will definitely be hosting again one of those. I'm pinipre-em ko na kayo, no?
Thank you. Thank you. Actually, just a bit of I don't know if this will be aspirational to anybody who's watching, but I remember like when Chico and I started on our podcast, like because we would see all these Spotify exclusives on the platform. Obviously, it's like so you'd have that little badge of honor, you know, a Spotify exclusive. It's kind of like having a blue check on Instagram or Facebook or Twitter, right? Like this guy is legit. It's a badge of honor. And I remember for the first 10 episodes, you were like, look, we'll mimic the Spotify exclusive thing. We'll put it on our artwork, and not yet
That's
a
true.
Spotify exclusive. So we did that for 10 episodes, and then after that, like we actually became a Spotify exclusive.
Yeah.
So we got the permission from Phil na para okay, now you can actually put it on your artwork, and that's it. That we were good after that. Like we're just like okay. It was the validation that I never got from my parents. We got from Spotify. So thank you.
Amazing. Yeah.
I think that needs another session.
Yeah.
To just, unpack Gino. So,
And actually, on behalf of the premier BL podcast of the region, thank you to Spotify for the trust that they gave us.
Before you got on, Phil, we were talking about it. We were looking at our feed and we were like, top BL podcasts. Why are we here? This was not where we intended to go, but okay, we'll take it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
no, I think you thank the audiences, right? Like,
yeah, of course.
I think one last thing I'll mention, and why it's such an exciting time for us, it's not just the number of net new people who are listening to podcasts that's growing. It's actually like when you look at the individual listener, they're listening to podcasts much longer than ever before, right? Like,
Correct.
Because the thing about podcasting is it can be like a 5-minute podcast or like a 2-hour podcast, right?
Yeah.
So I think people are starting to understand like podcasting kind of fits the space of when we call it screenless time. So if you don't have time to like look at your phone, you play a podcast while you're taking a shower, cooking, or doing your laundry, right?
Running.
Yeah. So it's people are starting to fall in love with it, right? So again, my message would be like it's an exciting time to start. Try to beat Only Fun. Joke lang. They're pretty medyo malayo na sila, no? So yeah.
No, and I think that's awesome advice. Go get started. Do it before you're ready, kind of thing. Just do it, right? And that wraps up. Actually, thank you so much, Phil, Gino, Chico, and that wraps up our very very fun fireside chat. Thank you so much, guys. Really appreciate all the insight and everything. And we'll see you. I hope to see you soon in person, not like this, and
I'm sure.
hope to see you everyone soon. So hope you guys enjoyed that conversation with Gino, Chico, and Phil. And before we officially wrap things up, let's go ahead and read some updates from the CICP. Calling all of our members, there will be a hybrid GMM meeting happening very soon. We hope that you can join us. And so if you really want to be a part of it, please stay tuned for more details and updates. To those who have not joined CICP yet, please visit our website to know more about us and how to join the council. Be part of our growing family of creators, influencers, brands, agencies, and partners. Visit www.cicp.com.ph for those details. Also, our CICP Legal Committee, or the CLG, is available to take questions and consultations from our members via our website, Facebook closed group, and Viber community page. Should there be anything that our members want to consult about, just feel free to drop a message in any one of our accounts via PM or email. The CICP CLG team is always at your service. All right, there you have it. Exciting things continue to pour in for CICP. And I'm inviting you all again to be a member of the CICP now so you can enjoy various member benefits like discounts and webinars given by some of the country's biggest creators and influencers. All right, that ends our CICP GMM for the month of June. Thank you so much to all our viewers, and I hope, especially for those who are planning to start their very own podcast, that you have learned something from this evening session, just like Jacob over there. Huge shout out to all our guests as well this evening, Gino, Chico, and of course, Phil. Thank you for sharing your podcast journey for Only Fun and for imparting important tips on how to monetize and how to become a podcaster. You guys are the best. And also, if you want to watch our recorded GMM, CICP's official YouTube channel is now up. Just search for Creator and Influencer Council of the Philippines channel on YouTube and click subscribe. All right, I'm gonna go back being a dad. You could hear my kid in the background. This has been Jako de Leon saying goodbye and good night. Take care, everyone.